Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Entrepreneurship Now, where we are telling the real stories of the entrepreneurial journey. We are talking about the good, the bad, the ugly, and the absolute beautiful. I am over the moon excited today because I have a phenomenal young lady who is focusing on the mental health side of life. And I think that is a topic that is not talked about nearly enough because so many people are struggling. And I know you guys have seen an increase in people who are suffering. There's one thing that COVID taught us is that isolation has adverse effects, right? So I think whether it is a mental health crisis that is diagnosed or undiagnosed, I think we all have to be conscious and comfortable with having these conversations. So I'm so excited to have Lowe the counselor. How are you today?
I'm doing great today, Lachey. Thank you for having me.
You are more than welcome. Thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule. So, she is the owner of Omi Wellness and Counseling. She also is a serial entrepreneur, has a few other things going on. But I want to start with your background, right? Tell me a little bit more about how you came up with this business idea and how you got started.
Absolutely. So I am now a licensed professional counselor. I'm licensed in multiple states throughout Texas, Florida, Georgia, and Louisiana. So my journey stems back about 10 years when I started my career as a counselor. Prior to that, I pursued my master's in clinical mental health counseling and my bachelor's in psychology. So my love for the mind, the psyche, for social health, behavioral health stems from high school. My father was a social worker in LA County. I'm a California native, and so I was exposed to different way of life from a very early age, not just culturally, but also professionally. And in my heart, I always knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I always knew that I wanted to pave my own pathway and create resources for the community. And so just throughout high school and college, I had a keen interest into nutrition and health and wellness. And at one point, I even managed my own GNC franchise, and I took a deep dive into fitness and exercise, and I learned about supplements and vitamins and how they work with the body. And then I pursued my degrees, and so that's what kind of got me to this point where I am today.
Wow, that's amazing. I can
Yeah.
definitely tell you are a studious girly, and that is not me. It was enough for me, but I love it. I love that you were passionate about your community and you saw a need and you went out there and you got the education that you needed and still held on to that entrepreneurial spirit. That is so inspiring because I feel like very often people get so focused into just entrepreneurship and I just want to run something, I just want to do something. They forget that there's a business side and you got to learn how to run the business side, right? But then there are also people who are very studious. They're very much into school and they have substantial degrees and they feel like the only way that they can really use that degree is to work for someone who is hiring with that specific requirement. And that's not true. And you are the embodiment of both of those. So tell me a little bit more about how you made that transition from working with someone to becoming a full-time entrepreneur, which you have been now for 3 years.
Yeah, we're going on 3 years this year, and so certainly these things it's not taught to us how to establish a business, formate a business, and to sustain a business. And so for me, I found that gap of learning and education as an opportunity to teach myself. So while I was working in the group practice, I took on a role of exploring the administrative side, exploring the back office of running a therapy practice. And so once I had enough information that I felt I can manage independently, I went ahead and started planning my business. And so it took me about a 6-month period before I transitioned into solo entrepreneurship. And when I took that leap, I felt pretty confident that I had the information, the resources, and the strategies to run and establish my business. And so that is what I did. I took a leap of faith. After 2 years in the group practice, I took that leap and moved into independent practice.
Wow. And it is a leap of faith. I feel like that is what entrepreneurship is. It is completely a leap of faith, but
Yeah.
you have to take the leap if you're going to sink or swim, right? And I'm a firm believer that there are no real failures. The only failure is that you give up, but
Mm.
to give yourself your best chance of success, you
Mhm.
want to make sure that you come up with a plan and you work your plan. I think you did a very smart thing by working with a group and learning a little bit more about the entrepreneurial side and managing the business because you already had the knowledge of how to work one on one with
Mhm.
individuals, but you needed to learn the how to actually run that type of a business. And that's so important, you guys. That's so important. A
Yeah.
lot of times I deal with students that really they're so excited, they have this passion, this fire burning in them, and they're ready to take that leap of faith, but they don't have all the tools, right? You might want to take a swim class before you just go jumping off the deep end, right? And
Yeah.
that's what it exactly what we're talking about here. That's exactly what this young lady did. She knew that she wanted to be an entrepreneur from a young age. She knew that working for someone was just not going to be her future. It wasn't going to be the end of her story. And she was willing to take the steps that she needed to work for a company, work for a group, learn how to actually operate this business. And then she took that big leap to go full time for herself. But her entrepreneurial mindset didn't start when she took that leap. That entrepreneurial mindset started at a very young age. So I applaud you for that.
Mhm.
Now, you do something or you teach something called integrative mental health. You
Yeah.
have to tell us what exactly is that?
All right. So I consider myself a holistic lifestyle expert, but I also have a certification in integrative mental health. And so this is a combination of therapies that offers that mind body approach to the psyche. Traditional theories may look at, psychosocial development, psychoanalytical, cognitive behavioral, dialectical behavioral, all of those things that they teach us in school, but the integrative component is more of a modern approach to therapy that considers lifestyle factors, culture, it looks at personal values. It looks at the mind, body, and spirit as well. And so a lot of the services I offer is very unique to each client. It's an individualized approach to what that person may be experiencing, whether on an emotional level, a spiritual level, physical level as well. And then we look at the different theories to support that person. So that's essentially what integrative mental health is. It's a more collaborative approach to treating mental conditions like anxiety or depression.
Wow. And
Mhm.
it's so true. I've just never
Yeah.
heard the terminology for it. So I
Yeah.
own homes. My family history is heavily in group homes. My father
Mm.
owned them for several years. As soon as I became an adult, I made sure that I purchased a few. And you learn a lot. It gives you a crash course towards all things mental health. You get a little bit of everything. And I feel so blessed for having that experience, but I definitely learned how individuals, they're more than just what their diagnosis is. There is
Yeah.
a spectrum, and the majority, I wouldn't even say a majority, I would honestly say 100% of the time, there was some type of environmental impact on
Mm.
the individual. But then there was also the lifestyle part, which can somewhat be environmental as well, because I would see certain residents that they were used to living in a home where they weren't really taken care of, and they would have just a slew of health issues, right? That would
Mhm.
compound. But once we took control of their diet, the food that they were eating, they were in a calmer environment. Now, all of a sudden, these things that this person was known for years are just fading away, right? These aren't problems that they have. And now the person's emotional side is better.
Mhm.
And that's causing them to have less mental health breakdowns. I was very proud of the fact that out of the probably 5 years that I had my homes, I never really had a client go into true prices. I had some people who
Oh,
were
wow.
not a good fit for the environment, for the community,
Yeah.
more so on the personality side, but I definitely am very, very, very proud of that, but it just goes to show
Mhm.
how important that holistic approach is, and I don't have any, background in therapy per se, but it's
Yeah.
just something that I observe. I observe how the difference in having people intermix, and that's why I said the people who just weren't a good fit for the environment, because it was you as an individual are negatively impacting your space, your energy, you're bringing a negative energy to this household that doesn't normally have that or deal with
Yeah.
that. I
Mhm.
love that you are taking a proactive approach to that and actually trying to change therapy from within. I think that is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. Now, another thing that I really love about your business is that you're digital. You're
Mhm.
absolutely digital. And that's a component that I always try to bring to light for my coaching students or the people that I do marketing for, because there's a whole digital world, but I feel like people think of digital as something that works for other people. That's something that benefits
Mhm.
other people's businesses. But I'm a firm believer that digital in some way, shape, or form can be a value add to everyone's business, whether you are a therapist, whether you are a coach, whether you are a musician. There are ways that you can incorporate a digital offer to
Yes.
help you reach your financial goals. So tell us a little bit more about how you incorporated digital within your business.
Well, yeah, so we are a service-based business, right? We do one-to-one counseling. And so our services is just as simple as that. You log on to your session and boom, we're right here, right? But taking it a step further is being able to manage the business virtually. So marketing, email, content, all communications are done online, and it just makes it a little bit easier to navigate. For example, the lifestyle that I have, also being self-employed allows me to be a homemaker, so being home with my children, traveling with my children. Oftentimes I travel for vacation, but I'm still working. I have that capability to log in and run the practice from whichever location that we're at. Being able to incorporate those key skills for building rapport, it works for therapy because people like homework, people like resources, and so being able to share that digitally, having a hub where they can access their resources, it works. I wouldn't really want it any other way at this point.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
know the digital side, you're right. You never really get to disconnect completely, but it
Yes,
does give you a lot more flexibility than if you had to go into an office every
yeah,
single day. You have to plan for time to be gone. And even back when I did work a 9 to 5, I hated taking long vacations because it's like you get back and your workload has just kind of tripled the whole time.
yeah.
So I would always prefer to be able to take a laptop, knock out whatever I need to within a short amount of time and make sure that I don't end up overwhelmed when I get back. So you're 100% right with that. I'm really curious about what tools are you using to help you manage your business digital?
Well, social media has been a great marketing tool, being able to build our community online, having a virtual presence. We also utilize an electronic health record system called Simple Practice. There are other platforms out there that private therapists use, but of course, there are those mega platforms like Headway or BetterHelp, and they kind of have that same model set up, but they take care of the back of house things that a clinician would need. So I am combining all of that into one at the practice, managing billing, managing accounting, clinical, and like HR and back of house. We're doing all of that in-house. And so it has the great potential to be very successful.
But you're not doing all of this by yourself, right? I know you have a couple other people in your team. So tell me a little bit about that. What advice do you have for building a team and how did you go about building your team?
Well, it's a slow and steady race. Oftentimes, I am doing the work myself. And when it comes to delegating, you want to have a clear vision on what you need and how comfortable you are with passing that on, right? Being able to delegate to someone that is an expert in what they're doing and what they can do for you in the business is very important. So we're not talking about hiring your best cousin or your best friend who, can step in for you. We're looking for expertise so that you are not losing money, but you're gaining money because the systems are flowing. It's a lot more seamless. And so for me, it started off with two employees. We have a medical biller and we have a brand manager. And so I've went through a few administrative assistants to kind of take on that back of house role, but sometimes they fall through and I have to step up to that role. And so just making sure that everyone is in their particular lane, they can do the job well. It takes the task off of my to-dos and then I can complement and better support them when I'm not feeling overwhelmed.
Right. And you use
Mhm.
the word that's my favorite, an expert in their field, in what they do. You don't have to be an expert in all things. And I think that's one
Yeah.
of the hardest parts of entrepreneurship is that giving control in some way. It feels
Mhm.
like if you do outsource and ask someone on to take on that responsibility for you. I know I'm very guilty of it. I feel like for it to be done right, has to be done by me, and that's not true.
Mm.
That's not true at all. We all have to, and the more efficient your system is going, the better you are able to scale. So at the end of the day, if you have a financial goal that you want to reach, we have to realize that there are only a certain number of hours in any given day. We all have the same 24 hours in a given day. So by multiplying your efforts by utilizing someone who is an expert in their field and not just your favorite cousin. I love that
Yeah.
because that is very true. People think,
Mhm.
yes, I finally can get an employee. I finally can get even someone part time. And they try to just work within their circle, which I do get. And I understand wanting to be a blessing to someone. But at the end of the
Mhm.
day, you can only be a blessing to that person if that is truly their calling and something that they are really good at. Otherwise, you're going to be doing them a disservice because they could easily find something else that they are better suited for. And you're going to do yourself a disservice because your business is not going to progress. In a lot of cases, it's going to regress. And that is
Yeah.
the last thing we want as entrepreneurs. So I love that you brought that up. I think that's phenomenal. Now, with everything that you're doing on with therapy, I know that the Omni brand is not just in the mental health space. Tell me about some of the other ways that you've expanded your business to accommodate the whole holistic lifestyle.
Absolutely. We are expanding into a lifestyle brand, right? So we have Omi Beverages. This is a smaller LLC that was established. Oh, wow. 13 years ago. And so we offer the education, but we also offer the beverages, the organic beverages to support those lifestyle changes. We offer tea, alkaline water as well that helps with nourishing the brain and body. But then we are also launching a e-commerce brand where we'll support our clients with a mood kit. So you'll have your journal, your candles, your planner, your self care kit to kind of help assist with that reflective time, especially post session. I always encourage my clients to don't just meet for a session and then put things on hold until next session. Like continue that process until the healing has been accomplished. And so sometimes a toolkit can help you with that. And that's what we're offering in this new season to kind of support our community.
I love that because it's based
Mhm.
off of the needs of your community. And
Oh yeah.
that's so vital as an entrepreneur to not just put out there and offer what you think is
Yeah.
phenomenal and great, but really listening to your audience and what it is that you need, being observant and watching what they have going on and not just jumping on a bandwagon because it's something that's popular.
Yeah.
I know for a lot of people right now, coming up with a candle or just these things, they want to do it just because they've seen a TikTok video and some
Mm,
girl 4 states over is making a lot of money doing that, and that's great for that person, but it's about what your audience needs, and I
yes.
love you put together all of your audience needs and what can really complete and add to that experience so that
Mm,
they're not having this huge gap in between sessions before they
mm.
feed back into themselves, right? Because life
Yes.
can be extremely draining. So, how are you ever going to grow and excel if you're being depleted and then you just put back what you've already been depleted and then you just put back? And that's what the counseling would be if it was just those big gaps. So, I love that you came up with the way that you can kind of meet in between that. So, let's talk a little bit more about the marketing side. So, you mentioned it that digital has been a huge help for you when it comes to that. So, how did you develop your marketing plan for this business?
Well, it wasn't easy. It definitely took trial and error. But what I will say is I was given a lot of opportunities in that first year. Being able to meet, being able to win grants. Won some media grants that kind of propelled our business forward in the community. So some of that grassroots marketing, we had a commercial on the air, we had some radio adverts, we had some magazine adverts. We even worked closely with a local producer and was able to market our business within some of the shows that were running in Houston. And so that was a great opportunity, but being able to follow up with that, it has been a little bit slower. We've kind of shifted from just having like a digital ad out there to going out to these events more, going out to network more, putting our business out there, letting people know that we're out here. So that looks like coffee shops, tea rooms, lounges, restaurants, kind of getting to know the owners, letting them know we're a small business as well, and that we can complement each other if we work this way. And so it's really about that hand to hand approach, letting people know that we're here, and it's been helpful since we've been kind of maintaining it that way.
Yeah. And I swear, I just adore you. I absolutely do because you're hitting on the points that I want all entrepreneurs to know. Yes, digital is phenomenal, and I'm a
Yes.
huge proponent in that. And I think that everybody needs to, but we live in a social world, right? Social media just mimics what we should be doing in our everyday lives. And networking is absolutely phenomenal. I don't care how big or how small you are, you very much so should be out there and should be networking because you have no idea what connections that you're going to, get. Honestly, you really don't when you go to these events. When you may meet an owner and turns out this owner actually is into holistic wellness and they have
Yeah.
ideas that can feed into your business, or it could be a person that you're talking to and they may actually need your service. So there's so many different ways that it can do that. But I'm also a really big component into hosting your own networking events as well. It's
Hmm.
a really great opportunity for people to grow their list, right? Grow their email list. People ask me all the time, well, Shay, hey, I know I listened to one of your classes. And I know you said I need to have a list and I need to use email marketing, but how do I get started? Host a networking event or
Oh
participate
yeah.
as a sponsor for a networking event. And guess what? Those email addresses you can now use in order to market your business. But the really nice thing about it is that everyone who signed up, they opted into that. They said
Yeah.
that the topic of your event is something that I am very interested in, right? And I'm willing to give you my contact information in exchange for being able to attend that event. And there are even times you can even charge for these events. So it could be a whole nother income opportunity for you. And it works in so many fields that people just don't realize. I have one of my students, she hosted an event. It was for therapists, actually. It was for women of color in therapy, and it was a networking event specifically for that niche so that they can come together and talk about what's going on in each of their businesses and how they handle different things and what are they doing to market, what's working, what's not working. And it was a very successful event. I was blessed enough to be able to be there and help her with getting content for it, but it was a really great event. But that's not something that you would just go on Eventbrite and see for the
Oh yeah.
most part, right? And when there's an event or something that you wish exists, why not be the person who creates it? So
Hmm.
I love that you brought that up. Now,
Yeah.
tell me overall, out of all the different types of marketing that you do, what has been the least successful? And then we'll talk about the most successful.
Oh, least successful has been committing to long-term contracts. So some of these companies, they may reach out and say, "Hey, do you want to put your billboard up?" Or "Hey, do you wanna run an ad in our community network or directory?" But it's a 6-month commitment or it's a 12-month commitment. That really fell through for us because we weren't really able to track the analytics and see the profit. We just felt like we were dumping in the money but we weren't receiving that profit. So that approach doesn't necessarily work. I like to take my marketing. What works most best is taking it project by project. And so breaking down how much time are we running an ad for 3 days, for 1 week, for a month, and then kind of reassessing how that worked for us and then continuing on that path. And so I think a lot of times it's tempting to say, "Oh, I'm just gonna pay $5,000 for this billboard for 6 months, and we just hope it's gonna bring in the money," but I think you have to outweigh your risk and just realize, what's feasible for you. Taking it project by project has reaped, more benefits than just dumping into this long-term project or bucket.
And that is true. Just as big of a leap as starting the business is,
Mm,
deciding how to market your business is also a leap. It's a leap of faith in a lot of ways because there are no guarantees. That's a downside to marketing. There are no absolute guarantees. But just the same way proper planning can help you be successful as an entrepreneur, proper planning can help you be successful as far as your marketing as well. And you brought up a very key word, evaluation, right? Look at your results. In my coaching programs, we go through 5 bricks, and that is brick number 5. The fifth brick is evaluation. After we've laid our foundation, after we have defined our target audience and we're focused on reaching them, we've built a relationship with them, we've now converted them. That fifth step is to evaluate our entire process and really take a look at what's working, because something that you planned for 30 days ago, even as short as 30 days, could be
yeah,
2 weeks. If it's not panning out, we may need to make adjustments. Now, I will say that traditionally you do want to give it some time, right? You want to give it some time to
yes,
see if it's really working out for you, but you want to, before you even hit start, identify what your KPIs are. What are the key performance indicators for that activity? What is my goal? Whether it's a directory, it's a networking event, it's a social media ad. What is it that I want to accomplish out of this? What would I need in order to consider this to be successful? And it's the same thing even with hiring. If you're
yeah,
outsourcing, you're bringing on someone, what is it that you need for them to be able to take off of your plate in order for you to consider that to be a successful relationship? And
mm,
once you have that, you want to set a specific time, put that bad boy on your calendar. In 3 months or in 30 days, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to evaluate the return on this.
yeah,
And I'm going to act accordingly. So I love that. I absolutely love that. And you have been phenomenal. Thank you so
yeah,
much for sharing your incredible story. You're so
absolutely.
inspirational, and how you've been able to really just turn something that was a passion for you, your life experience, your educational experience, into an entrepreneurship journey that is really meeting a need within the community. I feel
Yeah,
like it's so easy to complain about the things in the world that we see that we don't like, that we hate, right? But how many of us are actually willing to take action to change those things? And you're doing that. So
absolutely.
thank you so incredibly much. And thank you to all of you who have watched us here today. I appreciate that, for you guys tuning in. And
Mhm.
until next time, bye, my cherish loves.
Thank you.